by a show of hands, how many people have seen the Barbie movie before?
Nice.
Okay, the rest of you, your homework is to go home and watch this movie. So this talk, we're going to basically talk about building at scale, building infrastructure, and best practices for development in the kind of new world that we're dealing with, post-zero interest rates, and kind of doing more with less, right? We're kind of in this era where technology has grown so fast that a lot of best practices have not grown with it, right? So we want to automate everything, we want to put AI into everything, but we're almost forgetting a lot of the basic principles of building things, right? So in this talk, it's about CI/CD, but it's really about building flexibly and building in iteration, right? So making sure that your goals are still the same. And also, people are just as important as the technology, right? So when you're building something, the way that you build it to make sure that your people have a good life and that you're not getting paged all the time, you're not getting woken up, and you are enjoying the process as much as possible, because there's good days and bad days, are really important. So this is more of an overall humanity and technology in this new world. This is my best friend, Kerri. She's a solutions architect. I'm currently a product manager, and I'm dragging her with me to do talks.
Oh, yeah.
So, my alter ego for this talk is DevOps Barbie. Currently work for Azure Linux as a product manager. I'm an open source contributor. I have 3 little people that I take everywhere with me. They're pretty cool. They're my favorite project that I've worked on so far. Co-host for Foreground and Find Out podcast about maintaining software, building software, but really the maintaining part, because I think we all talk about how fun it is to build it, but not how hard it is to maintain it and how to make that not suck, right? Education board chair for Millspouse Coders, and obsessed with coffee. Tacos are life, and if you ever lose me, you'll probably find me at a bookstore.
I'm Kerri-Leigh. I got literally dragged here today, so I'll do my best for you. I'm a solutions architect at Undisclosed. I've been in SDE for years now, off and on because of military life. I'm the board chair of Millspouse Coders. We're a nonprofit that tries to help military spouses find careers in tech that can survive a military lifestyle. Have 2 kids in college. I'm obsessed with tea and etc. Glad to be here.
Too. It's rad. Okay, so imagine Barbie and her friends come up with this great idea, right? Whether it be an app, a service, whatever. And they're like, we're gonna build it. So they get together, they brainstorm, they plan, and they come up with the requirements, and they work on building the startup. So you put in the long, what's this from?
This is mine.
Okay.
So after a lot of late nights and stress, bulk patches from trying to find that missing semicolon, finally we're at the minimum viable product, and it's time for release.
So, success. People start using your product, it gets released, you have users, you have feedback, and along with that, anytime you build software, it's always fun and games until somebody uses it in a way that's not expected, right? Like, if you build software for one thing, it is just human nature that someone is going to find a way to break it, to use it in a way that you didn't expect, and then to bug you on the internet to fix it into however they imagine it should be. It's really important if you want people to use your stuff is to be able to get feedback. But how do you do that? How do you consider bugs, regressions, and the ways that people are going to use it? In Barbie, Barbie feels that basically she's in a perfect world, right? All of a sudden she realizes her feet are flat, right? So she's like, oh wow, maybe it's not all perfect. So you get in the process, and all of a sudden, she's trying to put all these hot fixes out. She's trying to scale her product to be able to maintain high availability and to be able to meet her customers' needs. Doing that as a manual process is really hard. Do not recommend. 0 stars.
All right, so it's time to hire some more folks. So she goes on a hiring spree. She's got to go through the fretting of onboarding, people stepping on each other, trying to fix new bugs, introducing new bugs as they're doing it. They want to code faster. There's pressure to do that. They need to debug faster. They're flush with cash now because they've got more users coming in, but the pressure is now on too.
So all of a sudden, you've got more engineers. That should fix your problem, right? No, on-call sucks. You're getting paged in the middle of the night. You're trying to figure out the technical debt because, you know, you start off in the cloud because you're a new startup. You don't know your traffic patterns yet. You don't know what your scale is going to need to be. Most people start off with what, a SQL database, because that's what we learn in college, right? And you've all of a sudden got all this technical debt that you now have to figure out. Do we keep what we're doing? Do we just continue to maintain and scale this? Or do we re-architect it?
It's getting to be too much, and despite not wanting to turn the code base into a huge kludge fest, it is indeed now a huge kludge fest. So she goes to her mentor, and her mentor says things like it's time for DevOps and CI/CD, process improvement, and Agile. She's got a decision to make. She can keep doing it the hard way that she's been doing it, or she can actually acknowledge that processes can be a huge pain in the ass, but if done right, they're really great. She's got to re-architect the infrastructure to work at scale, but she also needs to re-architect the people to work at scale. There is technical debt versus building for long-term success, and it requires taking the time to do the icky parts that nobody wants to do, the documentation, and nobody has any excuses anymore, y'all. Everybody can do documentation now very easily with some AI. Smart tests, clean code practices, etc. You actually have to make time instead of taking the time. You have to dedicate that. You have to architect resilience, security, performance efficiency, and you need to architect for access to the information that your engineers need, whether they've been there for 10 years or just got here yesterday.
So Barbie goes on a journey. It's time for Barbie to go to the real world. She's going to investigate what DevOps, Agile, and these processes mean. Somehow Ken ends up in there. He wasn't invited, but he's here, so.
So CI/CD enters the chat, and there are different ways to CI/CD, of course. You have to know what the system needs, what your customers need, what the team needs. You can do atomic changes, which are really great. You can do constant deployments, or you can say we need to schedule a release day, weekly, monthly, whenever. CI/CD is team and project dependent. You need to know what kind of testing that you need to do and how much coverage you actually need. How much time do you want to dedicate to the testing? So Barbie wants to strike a balance here. She wants to develop her app, not spend all of her time testing. So she needs to ensure that the mechanisms that they have in place are engaged and working, and that she can monitor and analyze performance.
So things are getting wild. All of a sudden you have all these developers and they're all committing to the same code base, right? It's hard to find where your bugs are. Where are you making mistakes? Where do you need to roll back when you get a regression? So version control obviously helps, but also continuous integration and continuous testing helps you to figure out, if you're running nightly branches and you're running your pipelines at a good iteration, it's easier to figure out when something broke, right? When it comes to development, it's not just about building things and getting them out. You want to be able to maintain and debug them and make it as easy as possible. So Barbie is on this journey of trying to figure out DevOps, and some of it's going good and some of it's a little hard. Barbie talks to her senior engineer and she's like, I've hired new people, I've done all of what it is, I've automated things, I've used AI, and it's just not working. And her senior engineering mentor looks at her and she goes, did you think it was all going to be perfect? Because that's not really how this goes. You make things better in iteration, right? We've got this 10x engineer kind of thing that we go out with, that we, I don't know, like thought, right? And just be very technical and fix all of the things, but really like process improvement is important. You're just creating churn, you're creating not a very conducive environment unless you're incentivizing people to make processes better, to do your documentation, to mentor people, and to scale your team. As your product scales, anytime you onboard somebody, whether they be their senior engineer, a senior data architect, there's going to take time to onboard because they've never worked with your project, your stack, or seen the inside of your product before. So the more that you make a conducive environment and you incentivize people to also work on process improvements, and as a woman in tech, we all know people will speak, we always hear that you're really good at processes, you're really good at this, but can you be more technical? When women are technical. In the age of AI where anything can write code for you, which whether it's good code or bad code is, whatever. But coding has never been the hard part, right? That's never been the hard part of being an engineer. It is stringing it all together. It is being able to communicate. Engineering is a team sport. You cannot do that in silos. I mean, you can. People try it all the time. Nobody wants to work with those people, Like, everybody develops their own niche of what you're good at on your team, and working together is really important. So it's not going to be perfect. One of these issues or one of these things are not going to solve all your problems, but getting a good overall kind of working where you're iterating your process over and over again and moving forward really makes it better. So Lawyer Barbie, this kind of goes back to what I was saying, talks about you can make difficult decisions, right? And just to do things that are difficult, which building at scale is not. Like building something that on your own, right, and building something small is one thing, but building at scale has so many different issues. And we need both logic and emotion to be married together. We need to be able to take humanity, right? And take technology and logic and put those together. And it doesn't diminish your power to be able to feed into both, right? It's a superpower to be able to do both. So Barbie and Ken get back, and they have two very different ideas of what they learned. Barbie has learned test-driven development. Ken has learned chat-driven development. Ken's idea is you move fast, you break things, you automate everything. AI can write it. I don't need to know any of this stuff or take my time to learn it. And Barbie is not sure if that's at all what anybody said. I think this one's yours.
No.
Oh. So, Ken decides he's going to take over. He's decided that he knows the best way to do this. He's going to start a union with his engineers, and they are going to make an effort to take over the startup. Suddenly, there's a malicious actor. The system is vulnerable. and the malicious actor is using the vulnerabilities to exploit the resource. All of a sudden, Barbie Greenhouse is now Ken's Mojo Dojo. This takes us back to why, well, building things, we want to build things at scale, we want to do things that we're adding really good features and we're making things efficient, but security should never be a last thought. It's really important that we build things at scale securely. It seems simple when you say, make sure that we take care of best practices and least privilege, principles of least privilege, but look at the Target breach. One contractor that was disgruntled took down an entire system because they had access to data that they should have never had access to, and they did not need access to do their job. There's so many simple things that we do every day, and 90% of cybersecurity is due to human action. So there's so many very simple things that we can do, but we end up forgetting them in the big picture because security ends up a second thought. So Barbie calls in her team. She calls solutions architect Barbie, data architect Barbie, she calls security engineer Barbie, and they all swoop in to save the Barbie dream house. They enact the principles of least privilege. They work on documentation onboarding. They work hard on making processes better, and they implement DevOps and Agile, but not in the way where people get really crazy about it. That those people who are way too crazy about sprints and everything, but in a healthy, good way.
Healthy sprint.
Okay, fine. All right, I need you all we need to bow down to our AI gods now, because Autumn said, be funny, come up with a horses comment. And I was like, no, I don't know how to be funny. So I went to ChatGPT, and we got this fire comment from ChatGPT. Ken used to think the patriarchy was all about horses. Turns out it's more like an endless CI/CD pipeline. Continuous input from tech bros, continuous delivery of opinions Barbie didn't ask for.
So Ken loses interest. He decides to go start his own startup. Barbie decides that Barbie gets back she gets back control over the startup. They enact better processes, and they all live happily ever after, kind of. I mean, they're still engineers, so imposter syndrome, but it's better.
No notes on this one. If you don't remember the Ryan Gosling "Hey Girl" memes from a while back, this is going to make half sense to you.
So basically, it's really important to have an environment where people have the freedom to fail, right? Having good environments and good mental health as much as we can as engineers, is really important. Having people be able to bring their whole selves to work and being able to learn and make mistakes is vital. We are all just making mistakes. We're just working together and sharing each other's knowledge to make less bad mistakes and hopefully on production. But better software maintenance means we can make a better product. When your product isn't maintained well and it's not secure, people are going to use something else. Better collaboration, easier rollbacks, testing continuously, and being able to know where you broke something is really important. It makes you more sufficient, it makes it more efficient, and it also makes you create better competitive software. Incorporating user feedback is important. If your users are not happy, they're not going to use your product, right? And you'd be surprised by listening and learning how much you can make your product better. You can tell when somebody is really taking in consideration of their users and the problems they're having, because it makes their tech better. And also, if you can, and you can open source it, letting people contribute or really just get in there and do the feedback, it's amazing how much statistically proven it is that when you have open code, people being able to help you spot things is awesome. Automate the boring stuff. right? You don't automate yourself out of documentation. Don't automate yourself out of teaching your engineers how to build things and how things work, but automate the boring stuff. It's like when you are coding and you use a loop because you're doing something over and over and over again, right? But don't automate yourself out of growth and documentation. Thanks for listening to my rant about tech bros and 10 engineers. If you notice on Blue Sky, all of the pictures, she's like behind me, like that. So there's pictures of me and her hiding usually. Any questions or anything? Thank you guys for coming. I really appreciate it.
Are you inspired to see the Barbie movie if you haven't already? The answer is yes.